If persons haven't evacuated by now, they need to leave immediately. It is important that we advise all Jefferson Parish residents that based on the current forecast track, Jefferson Parish will lose public utilities such as water, sewerage, electrical, and fire services sometime during the night. People, if you think you are going to wake up in your bed on Tuesday morning and get back to any sense of normalcy, that is just not going to happen.
Fears realized. Tonight, entire towns have been wiped out around Gulfport, Mississippi. A local mayor says this is our tsunami.
No one says the federal government is doing a good job.
Baghdad, they airdrop water, food to people. Why can't they do that to their own people?
Underwater. Here in New Orleans tonight, after the giant storm came the rising waters. Over 80% of the city is flooded.
I have never, ever seen anything as badly bungled and poorly handled as this situation in New Orleans.
From New York to New Orleans, the Bush administration has not kept the American people safe.
And you know what? When I said to the president that he should fire Michael Brown, he said, why would I do that? I said, because of all that went wrong, with all that didn't go right last week. And he said, what didn't go right?
And Brownie, you're doing a heck of a job.
Oblivious, in denial, dangerous.
It was 5 days and much criticism before he stepped foot in the Gulf Coast.
A better leader would have flown straight to the disaster zone and announced the immediate mobilization of every available resource.
The initial response was uncoordinated, weak.
Satisfied with the response?
Why did the response take so long? That is the question.
Especially when they had a 3-day warning at the level it was going to hit.
People are being forced to live like animals.
And they want answers. They want accountability.
People are dying at the convention center, and there's no one to come get them.
New Orleans lies dormant, a no-man's land of twisted carnage and remnant destruction. The unique population which once filled her streets and avenues with internationally recognized entertainment, cuisine, attraction, and intrigue, 2 years later are still displaced, scattered to all direction, and prevented from coming back. With no recourse or incentive to return to the city which housed generations of their family history, once proud New Orleans citizens struggled daily to start their lives anew and put aside the memories of that tragic day when residents of an American city were left abandoned to die like refugees hopeless in their own homes. The government housing developments which once subsidized the efforts of the poor to maintain their survival are now being purposely destroyed, barricaded, and bulldozed to ensure that the new New Orleans remains largely white and Republicanly controlled, ensuring access to large Gulf Shore oil deposits rumored just off the coast of Louisiana.
The Bush administration has given the Housing Authority of New Orleans the go-ahead to demolish the city's 4 largest public housing complexes. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development approved the demolition of the 4,500 housing units Friday. Democratic Senator Mary Landrieu criticized the ruling, but other lawmakers have endorsed such moves. Shortly after Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans, Republican Congressman Richard Baker said, quote, "We finally cleaned up public housing in New Orleans. We couldn't do it, but God did," he said. Meanwhile, in Mississippi, Oxfam America, the Mississippi NAACP, and the Mississippi Justice Center are protesting a plan to divert post-Katrina housing aid to improve the state port at Gulfport. The Mississippi Development Authority wants to take $600 million in federal funds from a housing plan for low-income homeowners hit by Hurricane Katrina and move it to spruce up the port.
The strangest aspect of the levee breach that drowned New Orleans is the fact that the levees failed after Hurricane Katrina had passed east of New Orleans. The most destructive aspect of a hurricane, besides sheer gale force winds, is the storm surge that precedes the actual landfall. Due to the rotation of the hurricane spinning in a counterclockwise direction, the storm surge is strongest in the northeast quadrant of the hurricane. According to forecasters, the levee structure held intact until the storm had passed east of New Orleans. Later, it was reported that the water from the storm surge had topped the levees, causing spillover which weakened the levee system by disintegrating or eating away at the topsoil which enforced the levee protection system. This story would make sense if the levees failed due to the approaching strength of the Katrina's storm surge, but the levees held fast until after the storm had passed the city. The fact that the levees survived the main brunt of the storm surge and only failed after the storm had passed warrants further investigation, especially in light of eyewitness testimony that the levees were never topped off.
This area, even when the storm is down here, you'll see storm surge, but right at landfall, right here, is when the worst storm surge will be coming into the lake. Right when it's just south of, let's say, downtown on the West Bank. That's when the worst of the water will be moving into Lake Pontchartrain.
Because you've got waters from the east being pushed into the lake.
Yep.
And then overflowing maybe.
At daybreak, Katrina was roaring, and visibility was next to nothing. The 9 New Orleans firefighters riding her out inside the Lake Marina Tower couldn't see much, but heard plenty.
The wind coming through back here was, it was like a freight train coming through there, howling noise it was making.
Just after 9 o'clock in the morning, Captain Paul Helmers, an 18-year veteran, saw something he wasn't expecting. Water rising in the back parking lot.
I would say about 10 minutes after we saw it rising, I was pretty certain that the levee had to be breached. It was rising at such a rate.
Helmers grabbed his video camera and went up to this top floor stairwell. With the building swaying, he searched and searched but couldn't see the breach until visibility cleared enough for him to zoom in a half a mile away to the water pouring in.
When I saw that, I'm sure my coworkers had the same reaction. You know, my heart just dropped. Even though I knew the levees were breached before that, seeing it, and just knowing that the fate of the city was sealed.
The firefighters say there's a reason you haven't heard their story so many months after the storm. The video they shot of the levee breach was used in the recently completed congressional investigation. And while they testified, they were told to stay quiet about what they saw until it was over. And they say what they saw wasn't what was being reported in those first few months. They knew the levees didn't overtop, which was initially thought. And they knew the 9:45 a.m. time frame of the levee breach was also off.
Oh no, it certainly broke by 9 o'clock in the morning.